So should the Georgia Bulldogs remain number one after their 48-7 win over Tennessee Martin? Usually we talk about the rankings, but it's Labor Day weekend. They're not going to be out until Tuesday. I fully expect Georgia to remain number one. They may lose some first place votes to Alabama. Um, I'm not sure, but the problem is that most voters they don't watch the games. They look at the box scores, and I can confirm right now that if you look at Georgia's box score, um, it looks pretty good. 559 yards of offense, 260 against you on defense. They had 48 total points and allowed 7. To completely dominant situation, but when you think about so often, usually the different and by the way, I watched Michigan I watched the whole game in Michigan, but probably till the third quarter. They were okay against ECU. They did not look great. Georgia did not look great in the first quarter. Michigan did not look great until it took a little bit of time for Michigan. Tennessee, it was not great. Ohio State almost the whole game. But those are the teams that are probably going to play for, and one of them win the national championship. I put Tennessee in there because I watched them. I think Notre Dame has had the best 2-game start of the year, if you want to call it that. And that they're the only ones who played two games. They were completely dominant against Navy. They were completely dominant against Tennessee State this past yesterday. And we're going to see with Florida State and LSU. I'm sure someone will watch that game, vote them number one, and you still have Clemson and Duke, Clemson at Duke on Labor Day night. I will be curious to see once Disney gets a hold of all the SEC. Now we know next year Georgia and Clemson will play each other on Saturday night of Labor Day weekend. But will an SEC team play Thursday night, Saturday night? So we know Sunday night is LSU USC, and their Sunday whatever. And then what will happen on that Monday? Will it be will Mississippi? Well, I don't know. I don't know that I wrote about this a week ago, and now I'm pulling this out of my head. But will Mississippi State play at Kentucky on Monday night or something like that? So they typically want big brands on that Monday night that they can suck people in with not great teams like Georgia Tech last year or Duke this year with Clemson. And they may just stick Clemson with it over and over again, and they can complain about it all they want. But I don't. But we'll have to wait for the end of that game until we see what the rankings are when they come out. Do I think that they still, deserve to be ranked number one? For sure. From what I saw, for sure. And I think that's an important thing to remember here is that, what is being discussed online in message boards and on Twitter and social media, Facebook, wherever, is Georgia, what they're competing against right now, more than anything, is the confetti flying on their heads after the 65-7 win over TCU last year. That's the difference. Is Georgia's competing against the perfect, and that is really a challenging thing. I don't know if that's the best way to judge the way a team should or can play. But, whatever. Hey, listen, make sure you're checking out EcoPoly, our friends. This is the seat that I'm sitting in right now, believe it or not. You can get it in red. This is Georgia red, for the record. They have multiple, they can do two-tone. This is 20-year guarantee. 20-year guarantee. 20-year warranty, I should probably say, actually. But this is a very comfortable chair. You can see me sitting in it right now. It's made in Georgia. They've been great supporters of ours. Y'all should check them out too. It is quite easy to clean. It's weather resistant. Used with completely recycled plastics. And they can do two-tone furniture. I'm going to put a code at the bottom that's going to get you 50% off and free shipping. Make sure you're taking advantage of this. This chair is a sturdy chair. It's an 84-pound chair, okay? And I weigh 250 pounds. This thing is not even coming close to breaking. So I'll say this as a person who has a second place: go buy some cheap stuff. You'll be buying it again. You buy this? No, you are buying this one. You're buying this one time, and you're using it for a generation, and that matters. I think for Georgia, this quest for perfection, man, that's a challenging way to live life, because not that long ago when Kirby used Billie Jean King's "Pressure is a Privilege," which might be the greatest athletics quote of all time. That was when they were striving to win a championship. Now they've won them twice in a row. And all anyone can see through their confetti-covered eyes is perfection. This team's not perfect, man. I mean, that's pretty evident and obvious on Saturday. I mean, they've got some, issues at running back where they're thin. They didn't want to use Brock Bowers a lot. They didn't want to use Kendall Milton a lot. Kendall Milton looked great. And I think what, you really want to see is, Kendall Milton had a good game. Kendall Milton went 9 carries for 54 yards with 1 yard loss in that. His long was 37 yards. And people say, well, yeah, but if you take away that 37-yarder, no, that's a disingenuous way of looking at it. That's a sort of I'm going to criticize this no matter what way of looking at it. Those yards count as run yards. Those were beating them up. You want cheap, big, easy plays. That's what you want. Roger Robinson, 8 carries for 50 yards. He had a 23-yarder. And, people will say, well, 50 minus 23 is 27. On his other carries, he was just going for 4 yards a carry. Yeah, but, man, listen, if you keep punching somebody in the body, eventually they're going to drop their hands, and then you pop them right in the head. That's what that was. The long runs weren't at the beginning of the game. They were at the beginning of the game-ish. They were in the first half. But, those two guys, man, I'm watching this Oregon State game. DJ Uiagalelei has had a very good start to this game as Oregon State goes up 21-3, and he's 9 of 11. So that's a good look for him. But he didn't have an offensive line at Clemson to speak of. And Georgia's offensive line needs to play better. Now, those guys are really good. Okay? They just need to play better. And they need to so a lot of the stuff that we heard coming out of a lot of stuff that we wrote what we were hearing, a lot of stuff that we heard coming out of the scrimmages, a lot of stuff that we heard coming out of the practices from people that were there. A lot of this stuff's coming true. Like, there were times when the offensive line just didn't play well. Well, we just saw that. There were times, Brian even wrote about this with Carson, said, hey, man, he wasn't as accurate as you want today. And by the way, I keep saying that, but he was 21 of 31, for 300 yards. I don't, you're not going to strike every ball exactly right. I feel like I say this too much. But I also know that y'all didn't play sports in college, and it is not easy. It is not easy to do it the right way every single time. And that's the hard part. But you want to take off and land the plane. And they did that. They did not do that well. But, Ohio State really did not look crisp. Georgia exploded at one point with Carson Beck in there. Oh, Alabama, I want to see them against Texas. Of course, you want to see Georgia against somebody else. But, South Carolina looks not great. And they may play Georgia well. I don't know. But Spencer Rattler seems to be the only person interested in, competing on that offense for South Carolina. And that's not good because he's not going to play well at times. As I've been discussing, these things happen, particularly when Georgia's running at you. So, Georgia, we've not seen this a lot with Kirby in them. And even in 15 with Mark's first year, that was about as close to this as it got in terms of, we're going to kind of just roll our way excuse me, into this season, we've not seen this, 4-game build up to going to Auburn, and like you're going to be a 20-point favorite or more in every single game. But like for instance, in 16, North Carolina right out of the gate. 17, Notre Dame game 2. 18 was South Carolina on the road game 2. 19. Now this is as close to 19 as possible. They played Notre Dame in game 3, if I'm not mistaken, or whatever it was, game 4. What I'm suggesting y'all is it might be game 5 before we really see what Georgia is challenged, and that's not Georgia's fault. That's where they are, and that's what they've done to everybody else. By then, Auburn will have played on the road against Cal and A&M. They'll beat Cal, but that Auburn will be more tested. But will they be where they need to go by the time Georgia gets there? I don't know. And I'm looking for the Auburn line. These lines are slow. Any holiday slows us down in terms of a lot of the stuff that we do. But I think back to the original question. Is this the number 1 team in the country? It is right now. I mean, I don't see how anything changed. Frankly, I think that people are making too much of 2 out of 3 drives, and until this is a pattern. I mean, what was the pattern? Was the pattern 2 out of 3 3 and outs, or was the pattern touchdown, field goal, punt, touchdown, touchdown? Like was it 4 of 5 scoring touchdowns? 4 or 5 scoring, or was it the 2 of 3? No, it's the whole thing. So right now we don't have a pattern at Georgia. You have 1 game, and that's just what it is. But I think if you're not putting Georgia number 1, I think if you're moving Georgia away and you're putting someone other than Alabama in Georgia's place, I think you're not watching the games probably. But Georgia, and that happens. That's fine. But Georgia, I think, to me, would still be number 1 if I were voting in the AP poll, which I don't. But that's where I would go with it.